I'd like to introduce Mr. Arshdeep Fagora, our English and French curricular head.
Thank you, Chitra. Sure, make me follow the amazing kids who just spoke. Hello, everyone. My name is Arshdeep Fagura. As it says on the screen, I am the English and French curricular head. Just a little bit about myself. I did attend Lincoln when it was still Westwood, back in grade 9 ages ago, and it's just good to come back home, see things on the other side, and it's just a really, really awesome community. And I still have friends and family who, some of them attend the school, some of them still live within the community. So it is something that is really kind of connected with my soul. So this is an honor for me to do what I'm doing. Just a little bit in terms of the English stuff. So research has been showing that there is an inordinate amount of our Black boys being streamed into applied courses. And I had the privilege last year to lead a group of teachers, a group of English teachers, to train them in figuring out what a de-streamed classroom looks like. So that is to say, having all of our students go into the academic section, grade 9, grade 10, that way opening up more opportunities for all of our students. So this is really a passion of mine, the things that I'm about to talk to you about. Next slide, please. So here's just a selection of a few of the books that we're reading in our school. These books range from grade 9 all the way to grade 12, and what you'll notice is that they are all racialized authors. They are all written, these books are all written at least within the last 30 years, not the 1600s. And we have a whole variety of books for kids to choose from. So let me know if you've seen this before. You go into an English classroom and the teacher says, okay, everyone, this is the one book that we're all going to read this year together. We don't really do that anymore. So the students actually get to pick out of 5 or 6 books, they pick their top 3. And within small groups, they get to study the books amongst themselves. I am there as a guide, of course, but the students get to have a voice and choice in what it is that they want to read, what it is they want to learn about. So we have books by Black authors here, as already mentioned, Desmond Cole. We have books by Indigenous authors, books by South Asian authors, East Asian authors. Our grade 11 course, in fact, is NBE. It's not ENG, so it's an entire course dedicated to Indigenous literature. So we're truly trying to decolonize our practices within our building. And one of the ways is to center student voices and allow them to have the choice of who they want to read and read racialized books. That's the big thing. Next slide, please. And another thing that you've probably also heard in the past is, we calculate averages and then students kind of get the report card at the end. But if at the beginning of the semester you weren't necessarily familiar with the teacher's methods or methodology and you were getting 60s until you kind of figured out based on feedback how to succeed in that class, you may have had that 60 weigh you down in terms of averages. So really we're trying to stay away from averages now. What we're trying to do is looking at students' most recent, most consistent work, looking at formative work, that is to say work that is allowing them to get feedback and try that work again, have multiple iterations, and over the course of the semester, work their way from a 60 or a 70 over to the 80s and the 90s. And if a student is consistently performing at an 80 or a 90 at the end of the semester, that student is at an 80 or 90 level. It only makes sense. Next slide, please. One of the other ways that we're engaging our students is by having relevant topics to them. So I have a story about a student last year who, the student barely attended for a good half of the semester. And suddenly when they found out what it is that we were actually talking about, we were talking about identity and we were talking about racism and society and how to change society, suddenly the students started to spark up and attend every class and participate in every conversation. These topics engage our kids, and these are topics that are gonna allow kids to bring themselves into the classroom. So really in front of you, what we have from grade 9 all the way to grade 12 is a continuum. We begin with identity. How does identity affect one's life? We start with the self. How does my identity affect my life? How do the identities of the characters in the books that I'm reading affect their lives? To which we progress to looking at leaders making positive changes within the community. Like I said, our grade 11 course is looking at anti-colonial practices and decolonization with the Indigenous lens. And then finally in grade 12, students start to look at what truly is an anti-oppressive society. How can identity, community, and anti-colonial practices lend themselves to an anti-colonial society? Next slide, please. I had mentioned earlier that we do iterations of assignments before students do the final assignment. So this is what I call a choice board. And what we have on the left side are the curriculum requirements from English. So reading, media, writing, and oral, these all come from our curriculum documents. On the right side, we have a whole series of assignments within each category. So for example, for writing, a student will practice writing an informational report. They may not need to write the entire thing, just an outline and maybe a couple of paragraphs. They receive feedback on that. Then they write a series of supported opinion paragraphs. Fancy way of saying an essay without calling it an essay. And again, students just create an outline, they get feedback on it, and then finally, when it comes to their final assignment, their summative assignment, they get to take a look at both of them. Okay, this is the feedback I got on my information report. This is the feedback I got on my SSOP. Which one do I want to finish for my summative assignment, which is going to go on my final report card? Based on the feedback I got, based on the grades that I received, do I want to improve a skill, or do I want to take the assignment that came easy to me? So again, there's a lot of student voice and choice built into the assignments. Not to mention, there's different types of assessment practices. So students are not just being assessed on writing, they're also being assessed on presentation skills, reading, and within each of these assignments, there's built-in teacher-student conferences. I truly believe that if a student is trying to achieve something within their writing or their oral assignments, but there's maybe a couple of things that they may have missed through a conversation with the teacher, they can realize, oh yes, I meant to say this. And that also kind of garners not only rapport between the teacher and the student, but it also allows the student to be reflective. And it's that reflective practice, that ongoing iterative practice, which really will push our students to the next level. Next slide, please. Our French immersion program. We also have a French immersion program at our school. And again, this is something that we're trying to build student voice and choice into. We have in grade 9, students learn French, geography, and the sciences. In grade 10, they go to civics, careers, history. And in grade 11, they look at social sciences. Grade 12, they look at social sciences as well. Currently, I'm teaching the social sciences course. And again, there's a lot of student voice and choice built into it. One of the things that I realized when I took social sciences in high school was it really wasn't preparing me for what's going to come in post-secondary. University is a very research-heavy place, and I realized that if students can actually do graphs and diagrams and surveys and research, that will actually prepare them to do research in post-secondary, and that'll give them certain skill sets which I did not have by the end of my high school career when I jumped into university. So that's one major thing that I've implemented. The other thing is students get to choose which topics they're going to study. So they may be looking at psychology, but maybe they want to look at the psychology of masculinity and toxic masculinity, or the psychology of racism, or the sociology of racism. So students really do get to choose. Again, it's very, very student-centered. There's 10 courses in total in the French immersion program, and students not only end up with the diploma from high school, but they also end up with a French certificate as well. Next slide, please. And as I said, there's a lot of assignments that are built around the student, around themselves. So a lot of these assignments have to do with who I am, what is my identity. Next slide, please. Again, we're also implementing media within French, so allowing students to use creative methods to showcase their work. This is not an actual Instagram assignment, an actual Instagram account, I should say. It's an Instagram style assignment, which allowed kids to kind of play with media tropes, because media is a big part of growing up these days, we also feel it's vital for students to understand the dangers of social media, but also harness the power of social media in a way that we can showcase ourselves to the best of our abilities. So it really is media studies and as well as French. Next slide. Again, just more assignments about students. This one was done on mental health. So students are not just learning about self, but they're learning about important issues. Next slide. Within my class, they're looking at the effects of technology on society. So this student is actually studying the CRISPR-Cas9 enzyme, which edits genes. So looking at gene editing technology and its implications on our society. And yeah, we're just doing a lot of amazing, beautiful things, and I'm super, super proud of our students. And this assignment, they actually get to create a podcast that goes alongside their artifact, which here they've written a short magazine article. So if you were to scan that QR code, it would take you over to their podcast assignment, and you'd be able to listen to their podcast. And I'm actually very super excited because tomorrow our students are going to be showcasing this in our library. And I've invited teachers and administrators to come and check out the displays and ask our students questions. So I'm very, very excited about this assignment. So thank you. Next slide. And Ms. Snowden will speak more about this, but just to reiterate the diversity of books that we house at Lincoln, we also encourage diversity of reading with our Forest of Reading program. But as I said, Ms. Snowden may give more details about that, but this is another initiative that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And being an English teacher as well, I really appreciate the voice and choice for assessments and evaluation within the English program at Lincoln, as well as all the amazing book choices. Okay, so thank you so much for that. Our next